So there's a difference between ethical and legal issues. Ethical issues are moral principles that govern a person's behaviour or the conduct of an activity. It's what's morally right or wrong. Usually it should never bring physical or mental harm to a human being. Example of ethical issues could be being aggressive with the use of language towards individuals or not showing respect. Legal issues are law-based issues. This is when we have to work within the boundaries of the civil law. Examples of legal issues could be completing an experiment with no qualifications. So that's a legal issue. So there are many ethical and legal issues. So the first and kind of things that we have to follow when we do experiments and research. So volunteers. This is when the people volunteer, so the participated volunteers to take part in research. People should not be forced to do anything but purely given the choice to. They can be asked to take part, but it's up to them whether they say yes or no. Volunteers can be paid or also given incentives or rewards for taking part. Informed consent. This is the written or verbal voluntary agreement to participate. This is an ethical and legal requirement of research. Prior to this, disclosure of the study's procedure and potential risks must be discussed. Right to withdraw. This is an ethical and legal requirement. This can be a written or verbal notice explaining how they don't want to continue or even take part, if it's before, during, or after. If results are collected, they must not be used unless stated otherwise, which is totally allowed and must be respected. Health and medical screening questionnaire, participant disclaimer. This is a questionnaire to see whether participants are medically well enough to participate. If they are a concern, they must first be referred to a GP to double check they are well enough. This is mainly to protect the researcher from any liability put against them if the participator decides to continue to take part. Equality and impartiality. This is the unbiased attitude. Any decisions made must be completely objective and not made because of the person it is directed at or who it's about. Research responsibility. This is to protect the participants from harm, anticipate ethical issues before the study, monitor during the study, and competence to standardise and train to the administer experiment and data handling. Deception. This is the action of deceiving someone. This could be not telling them the right thing, omission, purposely leaving out certain pieces of information, commission, told everything, but it's all completely wrong. If deception is used, the participant must be debriefed as soon as possible. The participant has the right to know everything about the experiment, full disclosure. Health and safety. Health and safety. So Health and Safety Executive in 1999 created 5 steps to the approach for health and safety. Identify hazards, who is at risk and how. Evaluate the risk, adequate control measures, record significant findings and review assessment and revise as necessary. Confidentiality. This is Data Protection Act. Risk of exposure. This is the state keeping things private such as participants' results or health and medical issues. Data Protection. Data Protection Act 1998. The Data Protection Act controls how your personal information is used by organisations, businesses, or the government. Everyone responsible for using data has to follow strict rules called data protection principles. They must make sure that information is used fairly and lawfully, used for limited and specifically stated purposes, used in a way that is adequate, relevant, and not excessive, accurate, kept for a long time. Kept for no longer than it needed, handled according to people's data protection rights, kept safe and secure, not transferred outside the European Economic Area without adequate protection. Scientific misconduct, expertise and reputation, action which willfully compromises the integrity of scientific research, such as plagiarism or falsification or fabrication of data. Ethical clearance. This is ensuring the good research practice and conduct, which can include intellectual honesty, accuracy, fairness, intellectual property, and protection of human and animal subject involved in the conduct research. Risk benefit. This is ensuring that the benefits outweigh the risk in research and experiment, and no harm is brought to anyone. So if these like ethical and legal responsibilities aren't kept to, punishments and consequences can occur. So punishments can include ethical like the researcher and experimenter being made to go on ethical training, could have a prison sentence, reprimand or suspension, lose their job or career, could pay fines or lose their basis accreditation. So ethical training would be going to learn what's ethically right and what they need to do in their experiment to make sure it's ethically and morally correct. Prison sentence if someone's really bad, so it's caused like death or a really serious injury, or they've it's kind of a touchy subject. Reprimand or suspension when maybe they need to get it reviewed, lose their job. Fines, this could be if someone gets injured, and lose a basis accreditation. It's quite bad because then they lose all their reputation and their license to kind of research and experiment. Consequences can cause physical, mental harm or social harm for participants, and it can put them off from taking part in experiments again. So the scenario one. So scenario one is comparing three groups of gymnastics performance after different stretches. There will be a control group, the PNF stretches group, and the dynamic stretches group. The experiment will be done to identify the effectiveness of stretching on muscular flexibility. When the participants voluntarily turned up to the session, they were allocated a group, but they were not told what each group entailed. So what was right about this scenario? So they volunteered, so participants have the right to choose whether they take part in the experiment. So they've optionally turned up to this session. They've given informed consent, so this means that the participants would have given verbal or written consent saying they do want to participate, or they don't. What was wrong? So deception was used by omission, so they were not told all of the information about the different stretches or what they entailed or what the actual session entailed. All they knew was about stretches. So, for example, PNF stretches involve someone touching the participants, which they need to know, or they need to get consent of from them, from their parents, because it's quite a big thing if like they're young girls and then like there's a man coach trying to like help them stretch. So it can cause like quite legal issues as well. So deception was used, which is really bad. Health and medical screening questionnaire. This is a questionnaire to see whether participants are medically well enough to participate. So they should have found out whether anyone had any like injuries or niggles that they needed to know about to reduce any physical harm from occurring or making injuries worse. So they should have done that. And then it kind of ensures they're not liable for any injuries, because if they haven't found out about any injuries and someone had like a torn hamstring and they just go and make it worse, then they could be very liable and probably end up paying a fine. And it also causes physical and probably mental harm for the participant. Right to withdraw. So the participants should have had the right to withdraw throughout the experiments. Therefore, they should have not been forced to do anything they didn't wish to. So if no one wanted to do the PNF stretches, then they didn't have to. Like they have that choice whether they do it or not. Punishments for this kind of scenario. So if any harm was brought up on the participants, the researchers could have been fined or even lose their professional or research credibility. If serious harm is really brought to, if someone broke their leg or something like that, then this could really affect their career. They could also be given ethical training, so that if they're not dealing with a session properly or being fair or ethical to their approach to the participants and their rights, then they'll have to go on training and learn what they need to do. Participants might become demotivated from taking part from any of these, and may have mental issues as well as if they're physically harmed. So scenario 2 was investigation. The role of ice baths in aiding the gymnastics recovery from their maximal intensity sessions. The participants were given the choice to participate, but where they were not told anything about the procedure or about the ice bath. However, a participant asked to leave the experiment but was denied this.